Hello, and thanks for stopping by. This is Zach McKraken in the Alien Mindbenders for the Commodore Amiga, released back in 1988 by LucasArts. This was the second game that utilized the SCUMM gaming engine. That's s.c.u.m.m. This stands for Script Creator Utility for Maniac Mansion, which was the first game that used this particular engine. I believe Zach McKraken was first created for the Commodore 64, and then it was ported to other systems because it was so successful. We have a point-and-click adventure, and it utilizes a text menu in the lower part of the screen. You basically select a word, and you mix and match with the different objects in the playing field, and any objects you might have in your inventory. On the Commodore 64, you don't have a mouse, so you're using the joystick. Here, using a mouse. It's standard point-and-click stuff, really, or at least it's similar to other point-and-click games of this time. Zach McKraken, at its core, it's an oddball comedy. It's going to be quirky at times, it's going to be clever, and I suppose it's maybe even a little strange. It also goes in places that you don't expect. So if you're playing this game from ground zero, it's going to surprise you at different times. I had this game when I was a little kid, and we beat it back in the Commodore 64, me and my brothers. It was on a few other systems, of course, and ended up being on PC as well. That was the one I had access to. I remember a really nice looking box, and I remember sinking tons of hours into the game, just trying to figure out what the hell you need to do to progress. This was way back in 1988, of course, so the internet did sort of exist, but it didn't really exist for maybe 99.9% of the planet. This was way back in modem time and BBS access, which would be bulletin boards, for those who don't know what they are. These are just deposits of text that were just sort of clumped together. I was a kid, I knew about these bulletin boards, but I didn't have access to these, so it wasn't like you could go online and learn what you need to do in a game like this to advance. You'd pretty much be stuck for hours, or days maybe, or maybe even permanently if you gave up. These games did offer paid phone lines for getting tips. That was a thing back then. But there was no easy and free information, and more often than not, you didn't want to call a line because they'd charge you $1 for the first minute and 50 cents for additional minutes, and those prices would rack up. Here, you use the joystick, or mouse actually, to click your way through the various screens, and you're going to be finding things and performing tasks and figuring out what the story is. You'll have to figure out what the different items really mean and when to use them and at what time. You're going to have a handful of areas that you can visit, and you do get there by plane mostly, but you have to buy plane tickets to get around, and your character does not have unlimited funds. I remember playing this way back in the day, and just running out of money, and having to start over because we didn't know what to do, and we kept going back and forth. Here you play good old Zach. He's a journalist, and he works for a tabloid newspaper. The introduction to the game is you having this dream in bed, and you get a minor cinematic area to set up the story. Aliens, a woman. It's useful to start things, of course. You start wanting to quit your job and write a novel, but you have to do one more report, apparently on a two-headed squirrel that's terrorizing people. Naturally, there's a plot that is going to unfold that is much greater than this. You're going to search areas for the obvious things, hopefully, and then hopefully for the not-so-obvious things. When you're looking around the levels, the most useful command that you have in your list is probably the What Is command. Click the What Is button, and then move your cursor all around the screen. Anything you wave that cursor over, it's going to react to. If there's something in the environment that you can interact with, this is how you're going to identify it. It's very useful for understanding what's around you, especially when it's dark and you don't know what's in front of you. You're going to go about your business until you start to uncover ancient artifacts, and eventually there's a plot where aliens are trying to take over the planet by making people stupider with some machine. There's also a base on Mars that a few astronauts are vacationing on. There have been some artifacts that have been found, and there's this weird mystery that connects everything together. I don't want to give away this story because that's really the whole point of a game like this, is to figure out exactly what's going on and to see how big this thing actually gets. I remember the feeling when I was a kid and I got to a certain spot and the game just sort of cracked wide open, and it evolved in this way I wasn't expecting. I remember being really blown away when it sort of just became a bigger game. It took me hours, if not days, of me and my brothers playing this game, trying to figure out exactly what to do, and now I'm playing it as an adult, and I'm a little surprised to find out how much I'm remembering. I got pretty far the first hour I played this game on the Amiga. Much further than when I was a kid, dedicating the same amount of time to the game. Absolutely. Eventually the story just connects you to a bigger sort of world, and I really like that. And I think it's clever. It's clever in a lot of ways. And I believe this game did pretty well for most systems that it was on. If you like point-and-click games, or similar LucasArts games, like Maniac Mansion or maybe The Secret of Monkey Island, which are all fun, I think this one in particular is worth a play. There's this clever comedic sort of delivery that I find appealing here, and the way the story progresses, I think is pretty clever. And of course, when you get to that spot where the game just feels like it gets bigger, I think it's a cool surprise. It really worked for me. Naturally, if you just go through a walkthrough online, you'll probably or possibly not get the same effect out of this game, but if you claw at this game for a while trying to figure it out, when you make a breakthrough and you advance, it really feels like you're accomplishing something. Or at least that's how I feel about this game anyway. Well, that's all I have for Zach McKraken and the Alien Mindbenders for the Amiga. If this is your type of video, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and thanks for stopping by to take a look. I hope to catch you on another video.